Hello everyone, Marius here. In today's video, I will be giving you a new optimization guide for Cyberpunk 2077. This time I will be going more into depth and will be getting even more FPS than last time, as well as a sharper image and better colors. Okay, let's dive into this.
Mr. Lee.
Okay folks, here we go. So, for those of you who did not watch my previous video, I'm going to show you right away what we did last time to install your Cyberpunk 2077 VR mod. You have to gain access to Luke Ross on Patreon. To get access to his VR mods, you have to pay like $9 or $10 for 1 month's access, or subscribe for a longer period if you feel like it. And then you'll get access to Cyberpunk 2077, the VR mod, as well as the VR mod for Red Dead Redemption 2, Horizon Zero Dawn, and Mafia 1, 2, and 3. The newest versions. Yeah, so that's that. And to download the mod, you simply go to one of his latest releases, like down here, 3.1.0 at the moment. Click the zip file and download it to your computer. To install the mod, you need access to your games folder, which you'll find. For me, I bought the game on Steam. Let's see here. This was kind of clumsy to do with the Oculus Mirror up and running, but that's not really important. When I played the game on Steam, trying to get access to my games folder, I go to my game, click browse local files, and then I have to go to the bin X64, and here you have my main game, and that's where you need to extract your zip file, which will look something like, how does it look? Yeah, this real VR mod, Luke Ross. In here, the documents you get inside this, you have to just drag them over to your games folder, right? So here, an example, these three things, real repo, OpenVR, and real config that, drag them over, click the real config one time, let it run, and you're set. Then the mod is installed. Another thing, those of you who have seen my previous video can just skip on ahead so you don't waste your time. You wanna, if you're an Oculus user, head to your devices and change your refresh rate to 90 Hz. I've benchmarked 72, 80, and 90 Hz and found that I get the best frame rate at 90 Hz. That's that. So, let's get into the juicy stuff. Before we head into the game, to optimize this game as much as possible, we need a couple of mods. Here I have to give credit to the Reclusive Gamer. He gave me a heads up about these mods. You see, there's two mods that make a huge difference if you can get them. And that is general optimization. You can find that on nexusmods.com. And let's see, the one that lets you get rid of TAA and bloom. Those two, they make a big difference. Getting rid of TAA, the anti-aliasing in the game, and bloom, that frees up like 10 frames per second. And TAA, unless you're playing with a high resolution, it makes the game look more or less like an oil painting. muddy and washed out and just blurry, right? If you, like me, have to play at a lower resolution, you don't want this. This gets rid of it. And we're gonna replace this anti-aliasing with a different anti-aliasing that only costs you like 1 or 2 frames per second, while this thing costs you like 10 frames per second. So downloading this mod gets rid of it. Really simple to install. You just extract the zip file into your Cyberpunk engine config platform PC folder. I'm gonna show you where this is. It's not as complicated as it sounds. It's pretty easy. You head to your main folder, right? Cyberpunk 2077. Head to engine, right? Config, platform, PC. That's it. And you just drag disable TAA SSR in here. That's it. Same can be said for the general optimization. Same process, you just drag it in there. That's that. Super simple. All right. Let's see here. Okay, so that's a really important step to this. To get a new anti-aliasing effect, this is important. We have to head to Luke Ross's latest post. At the moment, this is the 10th of March 2022. He released this the 6th of March. How to make ReShade effects work in VR. Here you can download shaders from ReShade. If you don't know what ReShade is, it's a type of software or app which can attach itself to games so that you can add filters to your games. Like, it's the same thing I used to get Elden Ring running in stereo 3D. That was ReShade, right? And here you can use ReShade in Cyberpunk. So we can add an anti-aliasing effect, which costs much less FPS, which we can adjust, which we could not do with the TAA that's built into the game. So it doesn't get super blurry and it doesn't get super grainy. We get that perfect balance, and it doesn't cost any much FPS at all. And this makes a huge difference. So Luke Ross is a genius, right? How many VR mods has this? Really cool, right? So, have I forgot anything now? No, I don't think so. Okay, now we'll dive into the game settings. Let's see. We'll boot up Cyberpunk here. Yeah, I forgot to tell you, if you're playing on Oculus, turn off asynchronous space warp. I think the mod actually does this for you, but if you see it that it hasn't done it, then just, if you see it's on auto, just disable asynchronous space warp, because that limits your FPS to give you a smoother experience, and we don't want that in this game. Okay, let's go. Let's do this. There, game's booted up. I'm gonna open up Oculus Mirror so you can see what I'm seeing in the headset. All right. So I forgot to tell you about the installation process regarding ReShade. We'll talk about that before we go into the game. Let's just let it boot up in the background. So this post basically tells you how to get ReShade working. And it's pretty much the same as with everything else. You need to find your Cyberpunk game folder, and you need to extract this zip file into that folder. And needs to be the proper folder and not a sub folder. So if you just extract reshade shaders, then you get something called reshade shaders, and inside of that reshade shaders and then the shaders. That doesn't work. You need to extract it like I've done now. Unzip. We'll just do that right here. This folder you want into your games folder. And then it has to be in the bin x64 where you have the mod installed. Okay? That's it. You don't have to do anything else. When you've done that, then you can open up these shaders in your game. So I'm going to show you right now. I play with the gamepad. If you need instructions on how to get access to this without a gamepad, sorry about that, I can't remember. Just find Luke Ross's README, okay? I push down both triggers. There we go. As you see, I'm playing with 1890 by 1890. This works really well for me when I've gotten rid of TAA. Before it looked pretty blurry, but now I play without any FSR, right? So we're gonna, excuse me for a moment. This is kind of a clunky process. Head to my reshade filter here. Let's see. Okay. So you see, I went to the tab where it says reshade. In here, I found two things. I found FXAA, which is the anti-aliasing method I'm using. This is a filter that you find in the reshade filters, okay? And I use Color Lab to make some adjustments to the color. I've tried several filters, but this is the one that I found that cost the least frames per second when using it. The other filters I found cost a little bit more, but most of these filters and effects in reshade are really performance light. So they don't cost any much frames per second, either one of them. And we have FXAA. So we're gonna walk through that a little bit, not too much. Those three sliders you see here at the bottom for FXAA, they are basically the only sliders available. So even though there's like this scroll bar, there isn't anything below this that I adjusted. Subpix all the way to the top, darkness threshold almost all the way to the left, edge detection a little bit to the right, but mostly all the way to the left. I would say the numbers to you, but like this isn't an exact science for me. I just adjusted them until the game looked nice enough for me, pretty much, right? So you should do the same yourself, and if you want to try how I'm playing the game, you just copy what I did, okay? Maybe this looks too grainy for you, but if you're playing with 1890 by 1890, you have to choose whether or not you want to play with a grainy picture or a blurry picture. This is the best in between that I found. And 1890 is not a bad resolution. Compared to, for example, PlayStation VR, the Quest 1 and Quest 2, 1890 is a very good resolution, right? Because the Quest 2 pushes out like 1924 pixels per, let's see here. Let's see that I'm not lying to you right now. Quest 2 resolution. So the resolution of the Quest 2, yeah, 1832 by 1920. So 1890 by 1890 is pretty close to the Quest 2 resolution. And that's the headset that I'm using, right? So and it gives you a sweet performance. Now without FSR and these mods installed, I get around 72, 73 frames per second, and that is when FXAA is taking at least 1 FPS and the color lab as well. So maybe like without anything 75, and this is an old GPU or a low to mid-range GPU. It costs like $300 to $400 back in 2019. So this is not the best PC out there. And 75 frames per second with a resolution resembling the resolution of the Quest 2, the native resolution. That's not bad, man. That's not bad. You can definitely live with 70 frames per second. Yeah. So just for reference, if you're playing, if you have to play with a lower resolution, you should remember that the Quest 1 had a resolution of 1440 by 1600. So that 1620 by 1620 that you get in this game, that's not bad. Like, that's not a bad resolution. I mean, especially not if you get rid of the TAA, which we're doing here. Then the game looks sharp either way. So, alright, let's dive into the settings before we jump into the game. As you see, I'm playing with 1890 by 1890 resolution. This time around, I've turned everything off. Okay? Like the mod is by default. So I'm not playing with FSR this time around. And an important reason for this is that FSR is really dependent on... there we go, sorry, forgot to bring up Oculus Mirror. FSR is really dependent on TAA in any game, because it takes it renders the game at a lower resolution than the one you're targeting, and it upscales the image. It fills in those gaps. Crowd density, I've scaled that back to medium. That does make a difference on your performance. Not a huge difference, but it does make a difference. What else? If you want like a frame rate up in the 80s or 90s, go right ahead, enable FSR, put it on Ultra, and instead of getting like 5 to 10 FPS from just getting rid of TAA, you'll be getting 20. Right, so it's really effective using FSR. I'm thinking here, have I forgotten anything? I don't think so. We're gonna run the game. Just play a little bit and talk a little bit about this experience. As I said, this might look a little bit too sharp for you. Keep in mind that I'm recording video at the moment, so this will be affecting my frame rate, and I only get like an average of 72, 73 frames per second when not recording, which is pretty good. It runs really smoothly, I'm telling you, but now I will not be getting that same FPS. So I don't know how this looks on the flat screen. To me, it does look a little bit grainy, but if I find a place here where I can demonstrate what the FXAA does, then you might feel a little bit more sold on it. So we're looking for a place with some detail where we can turn on and off FXAA, right? Let's see, where could that be? I mean, this is insanely immersive, guys. Of course, if you're playing with a high resolution like 2160 by 2160, then there will be less grains displayed on your screen anyway. The higher resolution you have, the less you will need any anti-aliasing for that matter. If you're able to play this at a high resolution, then I see no reason for keeping TAA anyway, because then you won't need any anti-aliasing. Okay, so here. I don't know if this looks a little bit grainy. Yeah, it does. Okay, so we'll take this as the place we're using as our little point of reference while getting rid of some of these effects. We're gonna head back in here and turn this on and turn Oculus Mirror back on. Do you see that difference? Right, the sharp reds, and then I'll go in here and I'll turn this off again and we'll go back. Do you see how it looks now in comparison? So that is the color filter. I'll keep it off because now you've already seen like how it looks in the game with the color lab on. Now it's off, okay, and we're going to turn FXAA off as well, and we're going to look at the game and see how it looks now, okay, because the effect of FXAA is pretty subtle, but it's most definitely there. So now FXAA is turned off, and in my headset the colors look much more washed out. I'm getting a higher frame rate though, of course, because I've gotten rid of those filters, but this looks super grainy in comparison. Very sharp though. So maybe some of you might prefer playing it like this actually. But I do not. So we're gonna go ahead and turn on FXAA. Yeah, sorry, I'm not able to control these settings while Oculus Mirror is on. FXAA as well as Color Lab are back on. And then, yeah, that looks much smoother to me. I had to laugh because, man, the difference is just insane, right? But it's at the same time, it's kind of subtle though. Relic malfunction, huh? So they've added that just happens when you're not in missions. Huh. Okay, either way, we've seen that now. These things are much more apparent in the headsets. Keep that in mind. I'm gonna show you another filter that I really like, and that is fake HDR. This works best indoors, but it does work outdoors as well. You just search for it in your filters, write HDR, right? I'll show you in Oculus Mirror. Here you see it, right? HDR, I just searched for it, there you have it, fake HDR. And this adds a lot of depth to the world. Like the visuals get a totally different feel to them. Like every color pops much more. However, the reason why I don't usually play with this is I feel the game looks a little bit too saturated with this on. However, you can of course adjust the power. Let's see. So I'm gonna go ahead in here and I'm gonna turn the power down a little bit. Okay. And now the effect is barely even there. Like, it is there though. And kind of like with FXAA, this is super subtle, but adds so much to the experience. However, it costs you a little bit more frame rate than using Color Lab, which simply just adjusts your colors a little bit. Okay, so one thing I forgot to tell you while we're in our settings for the game. I'm gonna change back to Oculus mirror so you can see what I'm seeing. I just have to find it first. This is kind of annoying. I know it's a pain that I have to do it in this particular way. Add it. I'll go to my shaders, and then you see these that are in folders, separate folders. I can add one of these folders to the list. So if I go into my X64 here, we see ReShade shaders, right? And go into shaders, and in here we have a lot of subfolders with different shaders. And these you can, for example, like I showed you right now, I'll open up Oculus Mirror so you can see these folders I've added to the game. You see that? I just click the little plus at the bottom there and I can add them, the whole folder, and then I'll get the effects. If I do not do this, then they won't be added to my list. And there are a bunch of different filters there that work really well. I think it might have been in there that I found FXAA actually. I'm not really sure, but I think so. Really simple to do, just read Luke Ross's post. He probably describes it better than me anyway. But now you've seen it with your own eyes, where it's at and how it looks. That usually helps me though. So, I'm thinking here, is there anything I've forgotten to tell you? Most likely there is something I've forgotten to tell you. The technique that I've found is you head into your settings and you head down to FSR, right? And you turn on dynamic resolution scaling. So say I wanted to play with the native resolution of my Quest 2, which is 1890 by 1924 or something. I can't get exactly that resolution, but I can get something higher. So I could, for example, put the target frames at something you know you're not gonna get, like 100 frames per second, for example, right? And the minimum I will put at 89% of, for example, 2160 by 2160. So I don't have a calculator here right now, but I think 89% of 2160 by 2160 should be around 1930 by 1930, which is much closer to the Quest 2's native resolution. And when my target frame rate is at 100 frames per second, DSR or DRS, excuse me, will not work. So it will push down my resolution to 89% of my target, which will always give me 1930 by 1930. You know what I mean? So I can adjust my resolution to any factor by doing this. I can get any square resolution I want if I use this technique. So, but it won't look exactly like the resolution you're aiming for. It will look like that resolution upscaled. Okay? So we'll try this. Go ahead. My dog is kind of lonely here, so she needed a little bit of attention. Let's see. Do you see that? I don't know if you can see how much higher my resolution is now, but it's only like 100 pixels more. Not even that, it's like 50 pixels more. But now it's like the same amount of pixels that I'm getting in my display anyway, right? So that has to be the most extensive guide I can give you about this topic. Yeah. That being said, this has to be like the coolest VR experience out there at the moment for me personally. Sure, it has some issues still, and it will keep on getting improved over time, I'm sure of it. But at the moment, like, this is awesome. Man, is this game cool. Like, holy cow, is this a cool game. And as you see, like, now I'm not even getting as high of a frame rate as I usually get, and this feels totally smooth. So yeah, even if you have a potato PC, this is totally worth playing. If you're unsure whether your PC can run this game, there's a neat little trick Luke Ross has posted on his Patreon, where you can go to a site and check if your video card can handle the game and which resolution you will need to play the game at. I recommend heading to his troubleshooting posts, finding Cyberpunk 2077, and here we have question 2, will the game run with a good FPS on my PC? Head to this site and see if you can find your video card. So for me, I have an RX 5700 XT, right? This has a benchmark average of 16.873. I take the square root of this and multiply that number by 16.65, and that gives me something resembling the resolution that I can run the game at. For me, that is 2160 by 2160, but I have found that that is too low of a frame rate, which I get from this, to run the game. So I have dropped it below that resolution to 1890 by 1890. There you have it, folks. Cyberpunk 2077 running in VR. I hope today's video was useful for you and that you can use some of these tips and tricks yourself. This works best for those of you who have low to mid-range GPUs, but I think some of these tips and tricks can work for anyone and everyone who want to play the game in VR. Please like the video if you liked it, click the thumbs up button, write a comment down below if you know of further optimization tips, and don't forget to subscribe if you're into flat screen to VR content. Catch you on the next one, okay? See ya.